What's going on, y'all? I'm your host, Ro, and this is the Heroes Playbook, and we back for another dope ass episode, episode 2. So today we're gonna be talking about VA disability, which I did an Instagram poll just to see what y'all wanted to talk about, some things that y'all had interest in, and of course, ring ding 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 ding, VA disability came in at number 1, which is not a surprise, just because a lot of people have a lot of questions about this process, right? A lot of people haven't went through it. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet. You see people with varying ratings, and you got a lot of people who want to tell you different things about it, whether that's good or bad. So I expected this to be a number 1 topic that people wanted to talk about. And I definitely wanted to speak to it as someone who's went through the process and understands kind of the ins and outs and what to expect, and just provide insight to the person who may not have went through the process yet and they're intimidated by it, they don't understand it, and they want to know how they can maximize and get the most money to get the most fair rating, and of course, to get those extra benefits that come along with it, right? So one, I want to clarify and clear up something before I even start this video. A lot of people on the internet say a lot of just fake and not true things about VA disability. They think of VA disability like it's social security disability, meaning that I gotta be in a wheelchair, bedbound, amputated legs, back broke to be claiming, things within this process. Let's clear that up right now. VA disability and military disability are not the same thing. They, what may get you Social Security may not get you VA disability and vice versa, right? Let's get that correct information out there because I see so much BS on the internet and people like make jokes like, oh, you got a disability rating, but you going to the gym. Um, Depending on what you were rated for sure, as long as you were honest with your doctor and you're following the doctor's recommendations and you were truthful and honest with the VA, you damn sure can go to the gym and have a disability rating. I don't speak from things that I haven't experienced. My own VA doctor has told me to exercise, right, within the things. So as long as you aren't lying, you aren't frauding the process, it is not the same as Social Security. And I'm going to give you the big difference between the two, right? So, VA disability is the whole purpose of it is that when you come in as a service member, the premise of it is you go through MEPS, you get all these labs drawn, you go through all these blood tests, and they want to make sure that mentally and physically, that you are a healthy, human being. So that when you come in, that they're getting a whole 100% healthy person, or maybe, with the exception of certain things you had to get waivers for if you did have a waiver, right? And the whole premise of VA disability is that through this time in active duty, since you came in, you know what, saying metaphorically, you were this 100% healthy human being mentally and physically. If you're leaving out with any illness, injury, ailments, or disease, since you came in this whole 100% being, right, that you are entitled to compensation for anything. And the difference, right, if you've developed injuries, diseases, or ailments, because the whole premise of it is that we go through all these MEP screenings, we go through all these different things to make sure that we are healthy, that we are fit for service, correct, right? And so you leaving out with injury, illness, or disease, now they have a process to prove, okay, you now have this injury, this illness, this disease, this ailment, this mental health issue, different things of that nature. Now we're going to prove, did this now come from, as a result of your service, or is it not a result of your service? Is this something completely independent? Did your military service not cause this, or did it cause it, right? Where Social Security benefits, that has its own qualifications, that has its own things, right? So a lot of times people on the internet like to kind of spew bullshit, like people are just frauding the system. Go on a VH website, right? When you go on that website, they literally will encourage veterans, who have served, to go and do claims. They even have like a list of like presumptive conditions. Like if you served during different eras, they are going to give you the benefit of the doubt on certain conditions actually came from service. So the thing is, believe it or not, like all the internet goons, they talk down on the VA process claiming your disability. The VA wants you to claim it, right? I'm not telling you to go do any fraud. I don't want you to make any fictitious shit up. Like, don't be on, like, going to your appointments like, oh, this girl on YouTube told me to lie about my illness. No, that's not what I'm telling you to do. But if you think you have things that you feel like are a result of your military service, claim those things. The worst thing they can do is get rated at a 0 and be service connected. they can deny them, and then you have to go, and put in a claim in the future. But at the end of the day, the worst thing they can say is no, or you can get that whole yes, where now you're going to be able to maybe get some compensation for those things that you had as a result of your service, incur some extra benefits, and have those things taken care of where it's not just all on you, right? Because when you transition out of service, there's a lot of moving parts. The last thing you want to do is be dealing with something that you never went to medical for when you're first getting out, that you never got seen for, or maybe you did get seen for it and it was an ongoing thing, but you didn't file any disability when you got out. So now you're kind of on your own, right? You may be switching jobs, you may be switching career fields, you may be living somewhere different, and now that point of care is gone. You don't have that resource. Whereas if you're filing disability, hey, yes, you can get compensation. That's what we all care right about. Like everybody like money, bro. So everybody cares about that aspect of it, but also it's the continuing of care. If I had an injury that I got from service, now I'm able to continue getting seen for it, and I don't necessarily have to come out of pocket because this is something that happened to me as a result of my service, right? And so that's where the importance of disability comes in, and I just wanted to clear up the notion of the difference between the two because I just see a lot of BS on the internet, and I don't like internet. Like, let's just get straight to the facts. People want to go tit for tat, and you got all these different pages just kind of spewing different things. But let's just get down to the nitty gritty and the real aspect of it. That's why it was created in the first place, right? So let's go through the two different types of VA claim processes that you have. You have BDD and then you have a fully developed claim. So the difference between BDD and a fully developed claim is that BDD is something that you can do while you're still on active duty, but you have to be within 180 days and up to 90 days left before your discharge in service, right? And so what that means generally is like 180 days is like 6 months. 90 is 3. So if you're 3 to 6 months away from getting out, you can actually start that process, which I recommend, right? If you know that you're going to be getting out, and you have those dates already, you know when your discharge date is, you haven't extended, you're not like on any medical holds or anything like that where your date is kind of in the limbo, go ahead and start that process. Now, what I want you to do before even starting the process, and what you should do anyway, because you know that you're getting out, the military should have you conducting a separation health physical, where that's going to be doing like a full physical of your mind and your body, and it's just go ahead and going through and assessing any differences from when you first got in service, any ailments that you could have, and they want to see if you're fit for discharge, meaning that like you're not trying to get out with a broken back or like some major injury or disease where they need to keep you in and treat you or something like that. It can be a whole full spectrum of things, but generally speaking, that like, okay, what is any injuries, illness, or ailments, and different things like that, or anything that can kind of prevent you from out processing in a timely manner, or just to document differences from when you first got in, right? So you should be getting that done anyway, but go ahead and ensure that because that's something that you'll want done in the VA. They're going to ask for a copy of that as well, right? After you do that, or before you do that, doesn't really matter the order. You should be getting your medical health record. And I want you to go through and I want you to look over things that you've been seen for, things that you've not been seen for. This is where I want you to start thinking about the differences mentally, physically, emotionally of yourself from when you got in the service to when you first, before you got in, right? So I want you to look at those two differences, right? So, if in my medical record I know I have diagnosis for certain injuries, diseases, and ailments, and I know that when I first joined the military I didn't have these things, now I want to start thinking about, okay, are some of these things claimable? Does the VA, do they compensate for these differences and the injuries that I now have as a result of my service? I also want to start thinking about maybe those things that aren't in my medical record that because I was busy, I was working, I was standing duty, I didn't necessarily have time to go get seen, or I mentioned to the physician, or I went to sick call but it didn't end up in my record for whatever reason. You want to start thinking about those things because you're in that last 3 to 6 months where you can still get seen, right, and get those things documented in your record. Maybe get some last x-rays, some last MRIs, if you're in that BDD where you have that time frame and you have all this time to work out. So now let's switch over to the fully developed claim. So if you have less than 90 days, you're going to go through something called a fully developed claim. The process is identical with the exception that a BDD claim is expedited, right? Because you are still on active duty and you're getting ready to get out, they're going to prioritize BDD claims before they do a fully developed claim, and they're going to try to get you that rating within the first 90 days of you being out, right? It can last longer sometimes if they have to go back and they're looking for different things in your record that they can't find. They need you to do more CMP exams, and I'll break down what's a CMP exam. If they need any x-rays, they need more stuff, it can kind of take longer. If you're going through BDD, it can take longer than 90 days to get it sometimes if they have extra steps, or they defer your claims, meaning that the VA couldn't make a decision and they're going to try to look for more evidence to give you a conclusive decision and be able to rate it more clearly, right? So fully developed claims, the process, you got less than 90 days on active duty, or you've already been discharged from the service, right? They're gonna prioritize your claim, but you're not gonna be at the top of that list, right? You're gonna fall in with that standard fully developed claim process where you're gonna have to go through that what sometimes can be a long waiting period, right? Don't be discouraged. It's just a longer processing time because they're gonna prioritize those service members who are getting ready to get off active duty to get their actual rating before you. But you're still gonna get your rating. It just takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit lengthier, and your process for producing your evidence or your records might be a little bit different because maybe you're not on your current base, or maybe you do have a record that you kept, which I highly recommend. Like everybody who's getting out of active duty, whether you feel like you're gonna claim disability or not, get your medical record, a copy of it anyway, because maybe you don't file when you're fresh out, right? But maybe 5 years down the line, something is happening to you, and you know that it's a direct result of something that happened while you were in the military. Now it's a lot easier to produce those records and add them, even though they may have them anyway. But I wouldn't chance it, right? Nobody cares more about you getting a correct rating than yourself. So the four ways that you can actually do your VA claim is going to be online, by mail, by fax, and in person. The one that I recommend personally, and the one that I did to process my claims, was online, just because it's going to give you all of the different options, right? So what it does, it gives you a list, and it's going to be from A to Z, for example, of all these different illnesses, ailments, diseases, and you can go ahead and click on those, and you can add those to your claim, right? And you can continuously do this. And I recommend this especially for like all the tech savvy people, but maybe say you don't necessarily know medical verbiage the best, right? When you're online, it allows you to go, okay, well, I've been having back pain. It can go, all right, it'll give you the option of back spasms. If you go to knee, it's going to give you all these different diagnoses for knee, and you can click on those. Even if you're not exactly sure if you have that diagnosis, maybe your symptoms go ahead and they align more with that, go ahead and still click that one, because when you go through the process, they may request x-rays, you're going to do a CMP exam, and they're going to evaluate those things, right? So don't feel like when you go to do these claims, whether that's in person, by mail, by fax, or you're doing it online, that I can't claim things that aren't in my medical record. No, the VA has the burden, especially if you're someone who's fresh off of active duty, meaning that you're getting out in 6 months or you've gotten out in the last year. They have the burden of proving you wrong, because the thing is, you are fresh off service or you're on service, right? Like you're still currently serving. So it makes it a lot harder for them to not give you that service connection, right? You want to make this process as smooth as possible for you as you can, right? Because it's already a lengthy process. It has a lot of steps, and you're gonna come into certain hurdles, right? So let's not make this any harder for ourselves than it has to be. When you're still in that range, they got to give you the benefit of the doubt on most things, right? There's some things they still can say, oh, this is not service connected, and you might have an uphill battle with that, but that's a completely different story within itself, right? But the matter of fact is that it's a lot easier to get service connection when you're doing those things closer to the time that you were on discharge, or you're still on active duty getting ready to discharge. It's a lot easier to produce that, improve that, and get that service connection. So once you're going through and you've done that, I want you to also, what the VA is going to ask, and what I already want you to kind of be rounding up, is now your evidence. So they're going to want a copy of your medical record, which you can get from your medical records office. Any x-rays, CTs, MRIs, any radiology, any lab exams that you had. Maybe you had an audiology exam and it shows that your hearing is worsened. All those types of things, right? That, like, if you're claiming like tinnitus and things like that, I'm not gonna give you a list of things to claim, but if you have anything that you're claiming and you have support and evidence for it, they're gonna ask for it anyway. But it's imperative that you give it to them in a timely manner, just so that like your claim isn't being delayed, right? Like that's stupid. If it's something that you have, go ahead and upload it. And the VA is going to ask for certain things as you're going through the process. You may be at like step 3 on their portal, right? And they're going to ask, hey, do you have certain pieces of documents or different things like that? Go ahead and give them to them so they doesn't delay your exam, because sometimes they will throw certain claims you have out because you didn't give them evidence that they asked for. So just give them what they asked for in a timely manner, because we want our claim back in a timely manner, right? We want to be able to get a decision, get the best decision that's based off, things that we actually had evidence for, so that it makes our claim a hell of a lot stronger, right? That's an important thing. So go ahead and produce that at the time that they ask for it. Another big thing that people don't understand is how the VA actually rates you. So there's a code called the Code of Federal Regulations. It's 38 CFR. It goes through the list of ailments, injuries, diseases, and it goes through each block on how the VA actually rates you on those things. And it pretty much gives you the most information you'll have on how they're going to actually rate you, why certain things receive certain ratings and why other things don't, what they base it off of. Is it limited range of motion? Is it pain? Is it sleep disturbances? How it affects your daily life? So a lot of people have this big misconception that in order to get 100%, to get 90%, to get 80%, to get into these higher ratings, that you got to have your legs blown off or different things like that. And I will tell you that that's just simply not true. A lot of people get jealous of other people. Like, I don't understand how this person got this rating and this person has this rating. Well, I'm going to break down and dispel one big myth for you and one big thing that makes all the difference. CMP exams can sometimes make or break your claims or simply help, right? Say if you're someone who has strong evidence, you're able to produce all your records, you had a lot of things that you were able to get seen for, or maybe you didn't, right? It helps both of those different people in both scenarios. Going in on that CMP exam, which is a compensation exam that the VA requests. So remember when I told you that we're going to file all those claims and we're going to do those different things? The VA is going to make appointments. They'll make usually one for mental health if you have any type of mental health claim. They're going to give you an audiology because hearing is a big thing with service members. Like maybe you worked on a flight deck and your hearing is not the same. So they want to test to see how that hearing has changed since you first got in the military, right? And then they're gonna also do labs if they need it. They'll do X-rays or MRIs if it's warranted, right? If they need those as well. And then you're gonna do a CMP exam where the VA doctor is gonna sit you in a room. They're gonna do measurements. They're gonna do range of motion testing. If you have certain body claims that you've done, say for instance your shoulder's messed up, they're gonna test the range of motion of your shoulder, and based on where you actually stop and during that exam, they're going to tell you, okay, stop where it hurts, stop where you have pain, or, only go as far as you're able to go. They're going to give you that verbiage. And I recommend stopping where you have pain, stopping where your range of motion is limited. I'm not telling you go in there and fake anything. This is not your day to be like, faking it. But at the end of the day, go in there and explain your symptoms as it is their worst day. Because pain, range of motion, sometimes is temperamental. And when I say temperamental, meaning that like you may have days where it's good and you may have days where it is bad. It's like the worst day ever, right? Well, the thing about this exam, you don't know if you're going to have it on your bad day or your worst day. But what matters is, and the reason that you're there is because you want treatment, you want rating for what it is on your worst day, right? Because say you have pain 80% of the time, but when you have that 20%, you're able to rock out. But keep in mind, 80% of the time being in pain is a long time. 20% is a very low number. So what I recommend is going in there. I'm not saying till I don't want you to lie at all. Don't say the hero on YouTube told you to go in there and lie. That's not what I'm saying. But go in there and express your symptoms as if it's your worst day. It's not your time to go in there and be macho. It's not your time to go in there and put your tough act on. Be vulnerable. Explain the symptoms. Explain how it affects your daily life, because that's ultimately how the VA decides what range you are in for compensation. So say I have anxiety, and I know that on the day to day, it affects my ability to effectively do tasks. It affects my ability to sleep. It affects my social life. It would behoove me, to go in there and be vulnerable, to be truthful about those things, right? Not to necessarily lie, but to go in there and express how it is on my worst day, so that when that doctor is making that decision and they're giving these statements to the VA, they can either make a correct diagnosis. Okay, well, this patient, they show symptoms of depression or anxiety, or this patient clearly has limited mobility in their knees. They clearly have back pain. They have back spasms. They don't have a good range of motion when it comes to squatting, or being able to move their shoulders unencumbered, right? So that's things that they need to know, because at the end of the day, people think that the VA is giving 100%, 80% out, 90% ratings based off if you got your legs blown off in Iraq. Shout out to those service members. I don't wish that on anyone. I'm sorry that those things happen, but at the end of the day, that's not the only way to be in a high rating. That's not just the only people that the VA is looking to help, right? Maybe you came back and when someone's looking at you, they don't see a disability right on you. Like, there's nothing that they can see, but then maybe you start to try to do certain exercise. You start to do certain things before that you used to be able to do before, but now you can't quite do them the same. Whether that's mentally, physically, emotionally, right? You're not exactly the same. That's a disability just as much if you got your legs blown off. You know what I mean? Not undermining anything that happened to that person. I don't wish that upon anybody. That's a super unfortunate thing. And, I wish the best of health and recovery to those people and those service members that happened to. But that's just not the only way that the VA, and that's not the only demographic of person that VA is going to give disability to, and the only demographic of people that they're going to help. That's just not true, right? And so a lot of how the VA actually decides on your rating, they want to know, a lot of things with body is going to be range of motion, the pain, but the biggest thing is going in there and being truthful about how this affects your daily life. And now, before you get to the exam, I want you to start thinking about that, right? If you know that you have back pain that you cannot tolerate without taking medications, it probably affects your sleep. It may affect the way you walk. It may affect, say you were somebody who's used to getting it after it in the gym, but sometimes you now have to take days off that you didn't used to have to take days off, where you could just get under 315. Some of y'all just get under 315 and it's whoosh, just going up and down. It's going up and down. But now that back pain creeping on you, some days you skip in the gym and you can't put 135 on the bar anymore, right? But prior to your service, hey, that 315 was moving up and down, right? You was cold with it. And so those are some of the things I want you thinking about when you're doing that, because people think that it's these gross, crazy injuries that are gonna get you a rating, or you have to have this to even get some disability, and that's just simply not true, right? People who think that are grossly just they're not informed about the process. They don't understand how it goes, and that's not really what the VA disability is all about, right? Because we are thinking about this person who comes in, you come in as 100%. They put you through MEPS. You're out there duck walking naked. You doing all this crazy stuff, right? They made sure that you were healthy. They're, doing cavity checks and all this crazy things for the guys. That's what I heard. I don't know. I hope they wasn't out here cavity checking y'all, but that's what I heard. And so you want to make sure that I'm getting the correct help for these things, but I'm also claiming these things, right? Because I am not exactly the same person, maybe mentally, physically, emotionally, as when I first came in. That's the whole point of the disability process, and being diligent and knowing the resources and that you can help. So for certain people, they may have not a straightforward claim process and they may need a little extra help. I recommend not paying like claim sharks online. Like, you see these people online, like, guaranteed to get you 100% disability or get an increase and make you some money, and will only charge you if we do. I'm going to tell you a little story. There are VSOs that the VA accredits, which are pretty much other veteran service members who have went through the process, who know the process, and can go through, with your records with you if you want them to see your records, and just kind of go over your claims, and they can help you change things, tweak things, produce certain evidence, and have a more smooth process if you need help. Like, say I did my claims, I got a lot of things denied as far as service connection or zeros, or I feel like simply that I want to go ahead and apply for an increase because I feel like the rating that I have is not truly reflective of the symptoms that I have. Those VSOs can help you, right? I was an X-ray tech, and one day I met a cool VSO, and he was saying that, people are always paying for like lawyers and claims. Don't get me wrong, if you have a very hard case and it's very hard to prove your service connection, a lawyer may be what's best for you. Not one size shoe fits all, but for some people, they really could use the help of VSOs. And your Veterans Affairs office, regionally or locally, They have VSOs there that can help you with your claims. If you have questions, I would use those, right? Because now this lawyer that you're gonna go spend money on, maybe they're saying that they're not gonna charge you until you get a claim increase, but at the end of the day, you're still giving them some money, right, for that. Where there are actual veteran service members who have been in your shoes, who have done a lot of the same things that you've done, that can actually help you and walk you through the actual claim process, right? And so those are some of the things that I recommend. I'm going to do another video where I'm going to break down the 38 CFR, and I'm just going to go through certain lines for it and review it with y'all. I'll do a part 2 of this video where I'm going to go through, once you actually get your disability rating, what are some other programs that you'll now qualify for and that you can utilize because you now have a disability rating, right? There's a lot of extra benefits that come with having a disability rating, whether that's license plates, being able to get those, extra schooling benefits, compensation, of course, but you qualifying for different programs just because you got that VA disability. There's a lot more programs that you qualify for as a veteran if you have a disability rating. Why, which is why I would encourage everyone to go ahead and file a claim, even if you only claim two, three things, four things, right? Go ahead and do your rating, right? Because at the same time, we want to get that service connection, and a lot of people are naive and they think like, "Oh man, I'm good to go right now, right? Everything's just sweet, it's good." But 5 years from now, all those injuries that you kind of like, man, I don't want to claim because I feel like it's nothing, they could get a lot worse, right? And that's what tends to happen. People get out and they feel like they're good, they're Gucci, and then within the first few months to the first few years out, now they're showing symptoms of all these things that really happened while they were in service. So that's why I encourage everyone to get familiar with the process, to go through it, and to do it and how to approach it. And those are just some things I want to clear up about misconceptions about the program, right? So I'll do a part 2. I'll break down 38 CFR depending on how this video does and how y'all enjoy this one. But I hope this was helpful. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. If you got any questions, go ahead and drop them below. And thank you for tuning into this episode.